Good afternoon. We start our briefing, Euroreforms in Energy and Agenda for the authorities until the end of the year, and we hope that our work won't be a criminal offense. Because now there is a draft law that says that any influence or an attempt to influence power can be considered as a crime or a pressure on power. So everyone who carry out such activity may be viewed as criminals. But we hope for the better, and we together here with our experts who follow the events and corruption cases, and that was promised to us after the Revolution of Dignity, and the reforms in the energy sphere were promised, and once in half a year experts say what was done and what was not done in order to understand what we can demand from power, what can the ministry do, what can the cabinet of ministers do, what can they do. So TransEnergoConsulting, Svitlana, Holikova, Nitsovych, project and program manager of DiXi Group, Hennadyi Riabtsev, director of special projects of the Scientific and Technology Center, Psychea, Zoriana, Kozak, senior analyst of Research Center, Yuliia, Cheberiak, expert of NGO OPORA, and Andrii, Bilous, analyst at DiXi Group. So we have 7 minutes each, and then we will have Q&A session. And what we can realistically expect from power, except that everything will be okay. Good. Thank you, Roman. Good afternoon, everyone. So today we gathered here after long holidays, and the power was not making enough efforts in the recent past. So, but first I would like to say about successes that happened in the last months. That energy, electricity market law was introduced, and this is in adherence with the third energy package and our obligations in the framework of association with the EU, and also this is an attempt to change the obsolete model that exists now. Some people believe that this model is socially oriented because there is some sort of distribution, but who does this distribution is another thing. I would like to remind that the government adopted in August, they adopted a provision on forming a coordination center that will deal with the implementation of this reform, and Vladimir Kistion will head this coordination center. But the secretariat of the center are 2 legal entities. This is the regulator and Energorynak Enterprise. So we didn't see whether the center had a meeting and whether they started to act, whether they have a communication resource for the center, and who will communicate with the public, with the civil society, with experts, with the participants of the market. So this is on the agenda, one of the main priorities. And also, these reforms can be divided in 4 main groups. These are legal reforms, about 100 legal acts that should be adopted, and 80 a year in first year, and about 86 legal acts, the responsibility of the regulator, and only 1 was adopted. But very important, this is certification of the operators that transmit energy, that Ukrenergo will have new functions. So you understand this way. about 8 legal acts should be adopted per month in order to achieve results. And there are risks that this won't be adopted timely. And maybe my colleagues will say about the problem with the regulator. So there will be 2 people less, and if the members won't be elected in the nomination committee, then the regulator won't be able to adopt legal acts. And the second aspect concerning technical content of the new market, and the responsibility lies on the energy market and EnergoConsulting. And here I see one more problem, one more task. This is the corporatization of Ukrenergo, and to bring its structure up to the standards that would adhere to the responsibilities of the operator of the systems of transmission. And also there is one more step. This is unbundling. So this is the distribution of our Oblenergo on the transmission and supply. So this is we didn't see the model of organization, how it will be done. We want to have it as in gas sector, because after unbundling in the gas sector, we see that we have bills for gas, and they believe that this is some sort of improvement, but there are several aspects. One of them is really positive. The day before yesterday, Deputy Alexei Riabtsev registered draft law on energy ombudsman, and for 1.5 months we have an alternative that is placed on the site of the Ministry of Energy. And this is a draft law, but there is 2 different conceptual things we should speak about openly. So these are the responsibilities of the ombudsman. And I believe that they won't replace the regulator, but we should move in this direction. And one more thing concerning organizational measures. Technical means that should be implemented concerning positive steps. This is our integration into NCE. And there are a lot of technical documents. And on the 14th on March, there will be a new code of networks for the whole European community. And we work on this starting 2002. I saw 4 drafts, but it never happened. But this is the key document we should pay attention to, and technical issues in the new market should be a priority. And we spoke a lot about coordination center and about prospects of the market, and we hope that people will come and tell what is going on there. So DiXi Group, Nitsovych is the next speaker.
Good morning. I will tell you about the situation in the gas market. By the summer results, we can speak about 3 negative and 3 positive results, and one trend which will be which will define the processes this autumn and by the year end, starting with positive results. This summer started with positive decision for Ukraine of Stockholm Arbitration Court on the contract for supply between Naftogaz and Gazprom, and this will provide the opportunity to forget about those debts and also to regulate the issue with the restoration of supply. But this seems unreal. But now, when the negotiations are in the process, and if NAK, Naftogaz and Gazprom fail to agree, then there will be some court ruling, some court judgment on this issue. The next is the review of norms, rates. this was for households which do not have meters. They were reduced, and this would the monopolies will are promoted to install meters this way, and also this would encourage these enterprises for more intensive installation of meters. We know the problem is about housing meters as well, not only apartment meters. I am sure this would be regulated by the year end. We can expect that the regulator and the government will promote gases, encourageable gases, to achieve the goals set by the law, which says that we should meet 100% of gas by 2018, and the next decision is about the gas storages of those companies who plan to sell this gas in the EU. They can store it without customs procedures, but within 3 years. If this is introduced duly, then our storages will be more than 50% full, and this will provide greater profitability. The summer ends with the European Energy Community case against Ukraine. Special obligations are imposed on Ukraine. First, we should cancel the monopoly of Naftogaz for purchase of gas. First of all, we are talking about Ukrgaz Vidobывание company, and also the monopoly of oblgazes for purchase of this gas from Naftogaz of Ukraine should also be stopped, so that at the retail market of gas, the consumers can freely choose suppliers and change them if they wish so. The second is by the 8 months results, the gas production is lower. The pace should be 7-8%, but it is 3. This means that the steps which the government envisaged in their concept, it is not fulfilled. The third negative result is that the situation with the tariffs for gas distribution is not regulated. The regulator has not launched the process. They have launched only discussion of the proposals. The first proposals has been refused. It was some progress, but more consultations are needed, including at the expert community, to avoid conflicts, especially on customer charges. And the trend which we saw during this summer, it would define the mood of gas reforms. The debates between the government and Naftogaz of Ukraine on the management of Naftogaz, and also reforms of gas transportation system operator. This is the debate about the modernization plan of the gas transportation system and the gas price, which would be in effect from October 1st, and the debate on the plan of unbundling, the steps, the sequence of unbundling of the Naftogaz of Ukraine group. There are many controversies on the working level, and now they result in statements voiced out by the party. This unbundling will be the key task of our government this autumn. The next chapter in this novel is the strategy of Naftogaz. It was planned to be voiced out in August, but it was postponed. First, they thought to voice it out at the Energy Minister Energy Minister of USA visit to Ukraine. When it is disclosed, when it is made public, then there will be debates, and we need specific decisions, but not only debates. So we do not know the gas price from October 1st, yes? Is it so? Maybe the representative of the Ministry of Energy, who should have calculated this price, can give better answer to this question, but this price has not been disclosed yet. It was said that it would not change. Mr. Riabtsev, Director of Special Projects of Psychea Technical Center. So, do not press the Ministry of Energy. Several times they provided relevant calculation to the cabinet. This is the matter of political management, whether they will approve these proposals on gas prices. I usually not only talk, but also I can give some facts of public interest. The energy strategy was not adopted in August 18, and new rules, updated rules of extraction, development of oil and gas deposits. Also, some were not adopted, if not this. All governmental officials, they could get rest, but the achievements there are no good achievements, no programs. Next time the postponement took place of the new code of Ukraine on subsoil. Its draft will be ready by the year end, and its adoption is postponed to the first quarter next year. The directive on gasoline and diesel quality, Directive 70, is postponed, and 63rd Directive on control of exhaust emissions from oil reservoirs also was postponed, and the translation into Ukrainian has not been updated. Last time I said that it was I told you that there was a translation mistake. There was it was saying about translation was saying about port cranes, how the ministry can check port cranes. I don't know. The special permits for use of subsoil stopped. This resulted in dropped production volumes in Ukrgazvidobывание and Ukernafta. It is at the level now which can stop any plans to increase gas productions, which were made public at the end of last year. This more often we hear messages on the adoption of governmental decisions, while these decisions are not adopted in effect. I can give you an example. For example, on August 18, there was news about the adoption of the energy strategy, but we have not seen the document so far. the concept of development of coal industry, it was adopted on June 2nd, but it has not been made public so far. The resolution of May 30 of 2011, there are two regulations, 494 and 615, about auctions on permits for production. On June 22, it was news that it was adopted, but nobody has seen this. The international obligations of Ukraine, when their performance is checked, no plans and no assignments are completed, no plans are fulfilled, the regulator checked compliance by Ukrtransformer to license conditions and transportation of oil by main pipelines. The plans which were made public in 2015 on construction in Mirne village of the reservoirs for 50,000 cubic meters. They have not been constructed, and even no steps have been done. The construction has not started. The Ministry of Energy and other agencies believe that they have completed many measures, but they have not been fulfilled, and the decisions also, the resolutions have been ignored by the state regulatory services. All those items on the plan, they are believed to have been fulfilled, but they are not, because the plans were saying to issue a draft, and whether it would be adopted, nobody cares. We are talking about the draft resolutions on state regulator and about the technical regulations on assessment of fuel and other 6 regulations. I think we should not blame civil servants. We have very weird situation when most of issues in the executive agencies are resolved by assistants and advisors who are not civil servants, but they are decision makers, and these decision makers and this atmosphere in which they work also covers civil servants, and then we think that they are civil servants who are to be blamed. We have some expectations. There is a list of expectations. It was published in the statement of independent expert to the president and the parliament. You can see it on the internet and on the website of the DiXi groups.
I would like to defend the advisors. So we were really people who recommended some decisions, but of course they could use this opportunity in a different way. Now, Zoriana Kozak, Senior Analyst at the Resource and the Analytical Center, Society and Environment. We are responsible for the environmental component that is envisaged by 30th paragraph of the agreement. These were 8 directives that are divided into groups horizontal, that estimates the influence on environment, strategic influence, and access to information. And 4 topical directives, it is the industrial pollution, quality of air, and also wild bird preservation. And if we analyze what was done during the summer, yes, there are some results, and there was a signing by the president of Ukraine. He signed 2 laws on the influence on environment, and the law to introduce changes to preserve forests. And you remember those things connected with the adoption of law on assessment of environment and the signing of this law. And now this law is in effect and will be implemented, but it will be in effect on the 18th of December. The Cabinet of Ministers adopted the plan of work to adopt sub-laws in order to implement this law. And the directive that concerns the environmental impact on environment, and a working group held a meeting, and at this meeting they discussed the issue whether it is necessary to and in what way the legislation should be adopted further. I would like to address the issue about the expectations, and this summer was not really active, but the terms and implementation should be adhered to, and the implementation of some things can be under threat. Concerning environmental impact assessment, so half year was established for the introduction of this draft law and to implement the directive about assessment of environment impact. Bylaws should be adopted for this, and also civil society should participate, and there should be a register, and experts should carry out this assessment. But I believe there is one bylaw that is really important. This is a legal act that will be adopted by the Cabinet of Ministers, and about the registry of the assessment of environmental impact. And there should be notification, and then the further stages until the conclusion. All the documents should be reflected in this registry. And there is a question not only about the sub-law, but also about technical issues. So we have 3 months for solving these technical things. What will be this registry? And we have a lot of information and the status of the information that will be contained there, and the issue about classified information, limited access, but part of information will be with limited access. And there is an issue how to provide the status of the information, and also there is an issue how to manage this registry. And it is envisaged that the Ministry of Natural Resources will be responsible for this registry, but a lot of economic activity and assessment on economic impact will be carried out by state administration. So in what way these state administrations have an access to this information? Maybe there should be a systemic unit or a just registry. So this is a question. Also, there is a question concerning finances of this registry. So at the start, maybe there will be a technical support from the European Union, but further functioning is necessary. So without this bylaw, the implementation of law will be postponed. And also, there is an issue about real results in other directives, about strategic assessment, and it is envisaged that tomorrow there will be a second reading on strategic ecologic environmental assessment, and it will be a great step if they adopt it, but nothing is so good in this law. The prepared text has some additions that some deputies contributed, and these contradict with association agreement and current legislation. For example, such an amendment and concerning the public. Some deputies provided amendments. They speak about public in the term of territory of registration, and this contradicts to European legislation about and Aarhus Convention, and there won't be positive results if we have such amendments like this. So maybe these amendments, they are unconstitutional when they are connected with the territory of living. So there should be more positive steps made in environmental sphere. So now we have Yuliia Cheberiak, expert of OPORA. So there is a sense maybe to speak about energy efficiency now.
I would like to speak more about positive things. During the summer, there was adopted very important laws. In particular, the president signed the energy efficiency law and the energy efficiency fund law, and the law on commercial metering was passed in Verkhovna Rada. They were in the package of energy. The energy package. But there is one aspect, one of the main draft laws on housing utility services, it was not passed. So out of this package there is only one draft which has not been passed. All the rest of the package is in place, so the Ministry of Regional Development, which is the main performer drafting these bills, this already established work groups to draft regulations to implement the adopted new laws, but there is a small issue which stirs up activities in general part. This is transparency of the ministry. According to the Ministry on Energy Efficiency, the work group on drafting regulations have been working for a certain period of time, but there are no news about the activities and no regulations have been no text of new drafts of regulations have been provided to those agencies which should adopt these regulations. As concerned the commercial metering law, on August 30th there was the first work group. It was a large meeting. The ministry presented the list of regulations. There are 4 resolutions of the government and 6 orders of the ministry, and nearly 10 regulations to be amended so that they are tailored to this new law. This law is very important and very many regulations should be harmonized with it as it has been adopted already. As concerns the Energy Efficiency Fund, according to the operative information, as we do not see this information on the website of the Ministry of Energy, but the draft law on resolution on establishing the Energy Efficiency Fund and approving its articles as if it has been adopted, but all draft regulations and draft decisions of central agencies should be published at the websites of the same agency, but we do not see this information on the Ministry of Regional Development website. There is no such information, so that we can't assess the text of this regulation because they are unavailable in the public domain. And I'm not sure whether the draft on the supervision board of Energy Efficiency Fund has been developed. Another positive fact in this period was additional funds to the warm loans program. We see the trend for 3 years that at the beginning of the year very small amount is provided to this program, and during the year the funds are not enough, but the general public has trust in this program, and the government should pay attention to this fact and placing the funds. There should be more funds allocated by the government. This year, the lack of funds on August 14, the loan provision resumed. Since 2014, 320,000 families took loans for almost 4 billion hryvnias. 210 million families took loans for 3 million for insulating the households, and these measures are most popular in this warm loans program, and more than 1,000 condominiums got loans from banks for 178 million hryvnias. 468 condominiums got more than 100 million hryvnias under this program, so we can say this program is rather successful, and this is the only financial mechanism promoting energy saving measures in our country. I'd like to mention also the need to adopt law 1581. There are very many regulations to be developed for the commercial metering law, but if there is no law adopted on utilities services, then very many regulations, if even they are adopted, they will not be implemented. So this political decision should be passed by our government to adopt this draft law 1581. And I'd like to mention very fast the matter of subsidies we observed during some period. This social tensions in some regions in Ukraine the subsidies have not been paid, were not paid within 6 months, and this really influenced the condominiums who could not repay their loans to banks because of this. When the budget was amended in July for 15 billions on subsidies and other preferences, but some amount was allocated to pay this interest rates. So new amendments also will be passed. Thanks.
Thank you. We believe that the situation will be better, but I don't have hot water now during the summer, and this is connected with the subsidies and debts. It's difficult to explain to children who came from summer holidays. So analyst of DiXi group, Andrii, Bilous, 3 months of monitoring of the implementation of association agreement. Our group found that the reform of public procurement and the introduction of system of control over state support that is provided to economic entities, it moves according to the established schedule without delay, but we cannot say this about the implementation of reform. And the work of the regulator. First, the reform of public procurement. In the last 3 months, in June, they connected to Prozoro system a registry, a single registry of physical persons, entrepreneurs, and public unions. What it means for the system of the participants of the procurement? It means that this is the simplification of registration and the speed up of the process, and this is a positive thing. And to the customers, this is also a positive thing, because it provides opportunity to faster verify the participants of the tenders. And at the end of August, at Ukraine Crisis Media Center, they presented a system of risk management, and in essence, it means that all the tenders that are registered during the day, 5,000, they will be assessed according to formal criteria, and they will segment out the tenders in which there are some violations or, even worse, some corruption component. So this simplifies the work both of public activists and law enforcement bodies to search and prevent corruption. And second, what I wanted to say is the introduction of system of control over state support that is provided to economic entities. In August, they introduced a law on support to economic entities that was adopted in 2014, and there were 3 years until the moment it came into effect. And the main implementation body is Anti-Monopoly Committee. This is the new function that they have never done before. So in these 3 years, everything necessary, all necessary legislation was adopted. They also trained personnel for the new department of the committee. And also there was a pilot project, and respectively. So there were no problems with the implementation of this law. And also in October, they started a new portal of the state support where they will provide the registry of the mechanism of mechanisms of help, of assistance to economic entities that do not distort competition. And also due to this portal, companies and activists, anyone, and the holders, they can provide information to Anti-Monopoly Committee about the mechanisms. For example, if one company gets subsidy on taxes and another company do not have it. And Anti-Monopoly Committee should verify such facts. And the third, the reform of the regulator. First two aspects, they were positive, and about the reform of the regulator, this is a negative aspect for business climate and energy sector. And the new draft law on the regulator was adopted last year in November, and 9 months passed since then. And the law envisages the main aspects. So the regulator should be independent, both economically and politically. But unfortunately, in 10 months of the implementation of this law, political independence was not established. And you know that previously the members of the Commission were nominated by the President, and the new law envisages the procedure due to which the members of the regulator will be elected by the representatives of the Supreme Council, the Cabinet of Ministers, the Presidential Administration. And the Test Commission was not established. And also there is a plan of rotation. So in 18 months, they all should be changed, and they change two, then second pair, and then the last member of the regulator. But now we face the situation when the Contest Commission is not created, and we have 4 people on the regulator, and in November there will be only 2 people on the in the regulator, so there won't be any quorum, and the regulator won't be able to adopt any decisions. So what these changes bring, what they mean for business environment. The introduction of the new instruments in the system of Prozoro and the speed up means that more and more economic entities will participate in tenders, will participate in state procurement, and this is a plus, of course. And about the control of the state, and this is a plus because there won't be a situation when one company, and we expect this, that companies won't have any preferences due to state resources, and the regulator, there is absence of quorum, absence of possibility to take decisions, and it means that energy sector for a long time, about 2 months. If we imagine that the Contest Commission is created, for example, in October, so the regulator will be without quorum until mid-January. So for 2 months they will be without regulating body, so no licensing, no adoption of investment plans and other functions. They won't be able to do this. And what about Rotterdam Plus? They won't be able to cancel it. Thank you. So we thank our experts for this thorough and in-depth analysis of the things. And this event is carried out with the support of Renaissance Foundation, EU, and also my colleagues say that we can also fill in the questionnaires, and I asked Victoria Zhenkova, and the ministry was mentioned several times, so you may provide your short answer, and then we will have time for questions. Do we have information about gas prices calculations? Thank you.
Good afternoon. First of all, I would like to thank for the report, for your work, which you have been conducting on the systemic basis. The ministry is ready and open to public discussion, and we engage public in discussions of our documents, draft documents. We need assistance in reforming and continuous steps which the public helps us to make. As concerns gas prices, I can't add something to what the experts have already said, but it was already said that very good systemic and expected reform in the electricity market is on the way, and I hope that your expectations will come true thanks to our joint efforts and discussions. Gas, this is unbundling, and I'd like to ask about very interesting documents, full text of the energy strategy, where it is it, and the full text of the reform in the coal industry, which is interested to everyone, especially those who know that the modern mines are in conflict with the law, they are non-compliant. What I can say that I can inform on these issues via organizers of this briefing, because I do not have this full text now and I don't know information. Yuri Favorsky, good afternoon. Your joke, I like it. Until there is no criminal liability, we can criticize. I have a proposal to organizers in the world energy. The traditional, conventional system, you have not been talking about the renewable energy sources. In your press release, in this section on environment, you provided nothing about the renewable energy. So I would like to ask you, if we are talking about the energy sector, conventional energy now is changing its model to renewable energy. I have a question to Ms. Svitlana. When you were talking about the part concerning the national regulator, I would like to quote the press release. Please comment on this. The national regulator adopted several regulations and finished forming the environment for reforms and promoting the regulation of natural monopolies. The expert community critically evaluate the amount of rates. How do you assess the pay for connection? We think that the national regulator works in manual model, and the market is concerned with this. I will be very short. I will speak very brief. The renewable energy is really an important part, and the new market, many issues will be in future resolved. Our tasks for future. Talking about the regulation, this is a topic for our next discussion. My stand was unexpected to some extent. This coefficient, this factor of assessments for both old and new assets. I think that it was because of the pressure of corporate owners who wanted to demonstrate that they have more assets, more valuable assets. As concerns connection fee, this is also the topic for professional discussion, and it is worth debates. The last question, final question, please. We will have the briefing next week on renewable energy. Volodymyr Mamaliga, I have a question. on the energy audit. It was cancelled 2 years ago. Instead, the law was adopted and no regulations to it to implement this law, how to conduct the energy audit. And it also concerns only civil engineering, only housing stock. Well, this is the question to the key developer of this regulations, the Ministry of Regional Development. If the law was cancelled 2 years ago, so it should be replaced with a new one. I can't tell you how it should be, but the laws which have not been passed, they are not supported by the implementing regulations. So it is hard to answer your question how to do. Maybe when we will have a meeting, a briefing later this year, we will discuss the other issues. So, thank you.